Look around the room you are sitting in right now. If your home was built after the year 2000, you did not buy a generational asset. You bought a $500,000 disposable wooden tent. For the last century, the corporate timber industry has quietly executed the greatest material downgrade in human history. They systematically erased the indestructible, rot-proof wood that built America and replaced it with fast-growing, genetically engineered sponges. And to protect their profit margins, they lobbied the government to make the old way of building practically illegal. Welcome to industrial decay. Today, we are performing a forensic audit on the 500-year board. We are going to expose the fast-growth timber scam, the oriented strand board trap, and the exact loophole smart Americans are using to escape the builder-grade monopoly forever. To understand the trap you are in, you have to understand what was stolen from you. Before 1950, American homes, barns, and factories were framed using old-growth timber. Woods like American chestnut, longleaf pine, and Osage orange grew naturally and incredibly slowly in dense, dark forests. Take the American chestnut as the perfect example. It once made up 25% of all eastern hardwood forests. It grew massive, straight, and was naturally packed with tannins that made it completely immune to rot and insects. Because these old growth trees grew slowly while fighting for sunlight, their tree rings were packed incredibly tight together. This tight grain structure made the wood dense, heavy, and structurally flawless. This old growth wood was functionally indestructible. It was so hard that it would literally spark and break the teeth off a modern chainsaw. If you built a house out of this timber, you did not have to worry about water damage. It was designed to stand for 500 years. But a board that lasts 500 years is a disaster for corporate profit margins. You cannot infinitely scale a product that takes 2 centuries to grow. When a mysterious blight wiped out the American chestnut in the early 1900s, the timber cartels did not try to save the forests. They saw an opportunity to change the market forever. They realized they could make infinitely more money if they stopped harvesting natural forests and started farming wood like corn. They engineered fast-growing species, like the loblolly pine, designed to shoot out of the ground in just 20 years. Because these trees grow so unnaturally fast, their growth rings are massively spread out. The wood is light, highly porous, and mostly made of air and water. When you buy a standard 2x4 at a big box store today, you are not buying structural timber. You are buying a wooden sponge. And when those cheap 2x4s got too expensive, the industry invented OSB, short for oriented strand board. They literally took the wood chips, flakes, and sawdust off the factory floor, mixed it with toxic glue, and pressed it into sheets. Today, your entire $500,000 house is sheathed in glued together sawdust. When a cheap plastic PEX plumbing fitting inevitably leaks inside your wall, that OSB soaks up the water like a sponge. It warps, swells, loses all structural integrity, and becomes a permanent breeding ground for black mold. But it does not stop at the walls. Look up at the ceiling of a modern, unfinished basement. You will not see solid wooden beams holding up your living room. You will see engineered I-joists. They took a flimsy piece of OSB and glued 2 thin strips of pine to the top and bottom. The industry claims they are structurally superior, but in reality, they are charging you a premium for factory floor scraps held together by chemical adhesives that slowly off-gas volatile organic compounds into the air your family breathes. The timber industry knew their new, fast-growing wood was incredibly weak and prone to rot. So how did they solve it? With chemicals. Then came pressure-treated lumber. Because modern wood is so porous, the industry can easily inject it with highly toxic chemical preservatives just to keep it from dissolving in the rain. For decades, they pumped the wood full of chromated copper arsenate, literally arsenic. When they were finally forced to stop using arsenic for residential decking, they switched to highly corrosive copper compounds. These new chemicals are so corrosive that they will literally eat away standard steel screws and joist hangers. You have to buy specially coated expensive fasteners just so the chemical wood does not destroy the metal holding your house together. They created a vastly inferior product and then sold you the toxic chemical solution to keep it barely alive. So why don't we just go back to building with heavy, locally milled, old-school timber? Because the corporate lobbyists made it practically illegal. Through the creation of modern building codes, the corporate megamills ensured that almost every local municipality in America requires a grade stamp on dimensional lumber for structural framing. If you own 50 acres of dense, beautiful oak, and you hire a local sawmill to cut heavy, true dimensional beams for your new house, the local building inspector will fail your frame. Why? Because the wood doesn't have an ink stamp from a corporate grading agency. They regulated the independent, high-quality local sawmills right out of the structural market, legally forcing every homeowner in America to buy corporate-stamped, fast-growth spruce and pine. And the industry will tell you that modern stick framing is safer. That is a flat-out lie. They will tell you that old wood is a fire hazard, but fire requires oxygen to burn. Old-growth timber is so dense and so tightly packed that it physically starves a fire of oxygen. In a house fire, a heavy timber beam will char on the outside, creating a protective layer that leaves the structural core completely intact. Meanwhile, a modern house framed with fast-growth pine, OSB, and glued together I-joists goes up like a book of matches. Firefighters call modern homes 20-minute houses because that is exactly how long you have before the glue holding your floor joists together melts, and the house completely collapses into the basement. But there is a resistance. The smartest buyers in the country are refusing to buy the builder-grade scam. They are using the 500-year loophole, architectural salvage, and heritage homes. Right now, there are billions of board feet of old-growth pine, oak, and chestnut, locked up inside abandoned 19th century factories, barns, and homes built before 1950 across America. Smart money is actively hunting for homes built before 1950. They do not care if the kitchen is outdated or the wallpaper is ugly. They are buying the bones. They are buying the massive, rough-sawn, true 2x4 studs hiding behind the plaster that will literally outlive the foundation they sit on. If they are building new, they are bypassing Home Depot entirely, sourcing reclaimed timber beams and building post and beam structures that do not rely on OSB sheathing to stay upright. Let the masses overpay for $500,000 McMansions that will rot from the inside out in 15 years. Buy the heavy metal, buy the dense wood, buy the dumb, premium. The corporate building cartels hate when we expose the exact materials they do not want you using. If you want my exclusive do not buy blacklists and analog building guides sent directly to your inbox, completely bypassing the off-grid network. The link is the first one in the pinned comment below. If you made it this far, let me know in the comments. What is the absolute cheapest, most insulting builder-grade shortcut you have ever discovered inside a modern house or apartment? Hit the subscribe button and I will see you in the next forensic audit.